Hello, everyone, and good morning to you. Welcome to the Open Mic Foundation. You are speaking to Seshni, and I just want to welcome everyone to today's storytelling. Yes, we are very, very early in South Africa today. Our guest today is from Thailand, and that is why we are actually streaming live this early today. Also, the time difference, so we try to accommodate, the storytellers that are sitting, outside of South Africa. So, welcome everyone. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. We have Deanna Campillo from Thailand, and she will be with us today. I'm going to bring her on just now. So, just a few things I just want to share with you guys. So, you know that Open Mic Foundation will be turning two. It's the second birthday of the Open Mic Foundation coming up in November. We're going to be having a birthday celebration for the foundation and also launching a few things that's coming up as well. So, stay tuned to some of the if you haven't subscribed to the channels, we have a YouTube channel, it's Open Mic Foundation. We also have an Instagram account, Instagram, which is Open Mic Foundation underscore, and our Facebook page, which is Open Mic Foundation. Please follow us, subscribe to us. We appreciate all the support. So let's kick off today's show. I mean, our talk today and the story that's shared is about the road less traveled. And I'm just going to welcome Deanna on. Just and welcome, Deanna. How are you doing?
Welcome, Shashni. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you so much. Guys, Diana is from Thailand, so you'll see there's a little bit delay on the sound and the response as well. So just take note of that. And welcome so much to the Open Mic Foundation. When you got referred to me, I think it was Yana that referred me to you, and she said you had such a beautiful story and so much to share. So yeah, she's an amazing person. Deanna, can you just introduce yourself? Where about in Thailand, and are you and what are you currently doing in Thailand before we go into your story?
Well, hi. My name is Diana Campillo. I'm from Mexico originally, but I live in Thailand since 2003. And I got married and have a family here. And we opened a Thai boxing gym 18 years ago. And that's what we do. We get the people from all over the world who come to train with us here in Thailand. And that's pretty
Wow.
much it.
And you've been in Thailand for 18 years now, right?
Yes, I have
Okay.
since
All right.
2003.
2003? Okay. All right. Fantastic. All right. So your story, the road less traveled. Now, you'll see there was a comment made by someone on I think on Facebook talking about their favorite book. So there's this book called The Road Less Traveled,
Yes.
which is actually quite a
Yeah.
quite a phenomenal book and has made quite a lot of strides in terms of its reviews and stuff. So a lot of people have enjoyed that book. So when this title came up, there was quite an interesting uptake about the road less traveled, and they were quite intrigued, on this. So I want to hand it over to you so you can share with us, the road that you took and what inspired you. Guys, thank you so much for joining. I can see people are streaming in right now. So, you will be able to share your comments with us. Make sure that there's some questions, some thoughts, some comments for Deanna. She is here from Thailand. If there's anything that you want to share, like she said, that she has a global dojo as well, and a lot of people from around the world come to her. And I'm sure she's going to share with you what led up to that. So, Deanna, I'm going to send it over to you and you can start your story. Guys, I have my cuppa, so it's early in South Africa. So please bear with me. It is very early, so go for it, Diana.
Enjoy your coffee. Actually, when I said the road less traveled, I was referring to the Robert Frost poem of 1915. I don't know the book, The Road Less Traveled, but I guess I have to read it now.
You
But
have,
there's
it
a
is a
poem by,
fantastic book. It is a fantastic book.
yes.
I read it,
Well,
so
I'm
yeah.
gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. But the poem by Robert Frost is called "The Road Not Taken," actually. But in the end, he says, he came upon two roads, and he took the one that was less traveled, and that made all the difference. And I remember that poem back from my high school days, and I thought that sort of describes my life. As I was growing up, and my friends from high school and then from college and from grad school, they were all going in their separate directions, and they were all getting married and getting jobs and getting new homes and everything. And I was never quite sure what I wanted to do with my life. And I ended up taking roads that were not as common as everybody else. I'm not saying unique, but a little bit different. I ended up in a different part of the world doing something different, and so I relate to that idea in the poem of taking the road that's not taken commonly by everybody else, but making my own way, forging my own path.
Okay. So how did your story start? I mean, what was that first road? I mean, share with us that story behind that. As much as that poem inspired you to take that, share with us the road that you took or what led you to the road.
The thing is, from the moment I was born, I was a little bit different than other people. And, not from anything I did myself, but my parents were diplomats and from Mexico, and they were living in England, and I was born in England. So there I am, a foreigner from the moment of birth. And I was in England for 4 years, and then we moved to Paris for another 4 years. Then I lived in DC, Washington, DC for another 4 years. I finished primary school there. Then I lived in Italy for 3 years. I had to learn Italian. I was the new kid in school again. Then we moved to Boston, where I finished high school. So as you can see, there's this always being the new kid in the block, always being the person who's the outsider coming into society. And this was the story of my life. So I was used to being different, and I was used to doing things a little bit different than other people, and it didn't make me insecure. I had the support from my family. I always felt like no matter anything I chose in life, my parents would support me. So it wasn't a hard road to take, but and then I went to college in Mexico for 2 years. I finished college in the US. I did a grad program in University of Maryland. And I did an internship in Washington, D.C. And I think that's where my life really changed. I was in Washington, D.C., living very close to the White House and doing my internship at the World Bank, which is around the corner from the White House. And September 11th happened. I think we can all remember where we were during that time. I was at home preparing coffee, getting ready to go to work, and watching the towers in flames as everybody else was doing. And that changed my life. Because at that moment, I said to myself, why am I killing myself? Why am I working 60-hour weeks? Why am I going to school and going to work? And why am I doing all of this when life can just end at any second? It got me thinking, really, what's the meaning of life? And even though it was a terrible event.
It's so true, right? Because as much as you had that back then, a lot of people with the pandemic today are questioning that today, right now. As much as you discovered that amount of time so many years ago, right? And if you look at what's happening right now across the entire world with the pandemic, everyone's exactly experiencing the same thing right now, right? Think about that.
Yeah.
We are questioning, what are we doing? We're working 60, 80, some people are working 100 hours a week. Why are we doing that? Why are we breaking ourselves for that? For who are we doing it for? You know?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of
It's
people can
moments
relate
like
to that.
that.
Go
Yes.
for it, Dan.
It's
Yeah.
moments like that that really get us to question ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was the first time that really happened to me was during the World Trade Center tragedy. I said to myself, maybe what I'm doing isn't right for me. You know, maybe for my friends, this is what they want to do. They want a career, they want a nice house, a nice car. But I wasn't convinced. And so the very next year after the tragedy happened, I booked a trip to China. Of all places, I had never been to China. And I thought, why not? Let's just go to the other side of the world and see what happens. I mean, what can happen? If it doesn't
Yeah.
work out, I can always come back. I have a plan B, right?
Yeah.
So I booked my trip. I went to China. I lived in China for a year. I taught English and I had a great time. But my plan was to go back to America and finish my PhD and continue the road that I was on before. But then a lot of other unrelated events happened that led me to where I am now. And I never went back to the States. I stayed in Asia, which was never the plan. I met a pair of Canadians, a husband and wife, doctor and a nurse, that had sold all their belongings and were traveling the world. I had never met people like this before, and they were happy and they were
Wow.
ecstatic. They were meeting many people from all over the world, and they had just arrived from Thailand. And I met them in China, and we had coffee together and a chat, and they convinced me to go to Thailand. It sounded like Disneyland to me. I really didn't want to go, but they were so happy and they convinced me to go. So I said, fine, you know. So the very next month, when I had some time off from my job, I went to Thailand. And sorry, you can see my husband in the back. He's taking a nap. Anyways, and so I went to Thailand, spur of the moment, really. And I met a girl from Switzerland who had a guidebook. I knew nothing of the country, so I asked her can I please borrow your book? And in the book, I read all the information. We were on a train, overnight train, heading south. And by the morning, I had a plan. I was going to do something, one of the activities that was recommended in the guide. And a few days later, I found myself on a boat. You know, that a liveaboard boat where you stayed 2 nights, 3 days on the boat, and we were snorkeling the waters of the Andaman Sea, and I met my husband on this boat. So of course, you know, many little like dominoes had to fall to take me on this path. It was never a planned road. It was never, I guess if life taught me anything, was to just go with the flow. And if possibilities show up, then take them. Don't say no just because you're scared because you've never done it before. Just try it. It might be fun, you know. And I ended up in a good place. I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm happy where I am, but it would not have happened had I been a person who was afraid of taking new steps, who's afraid of doing new things. So I'm happy that I was able to say yes to the new things that presented themselves, you know, in my life.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because I think people are so risk averse and they don't want to take the risk,
Yes.
right? Because of the unknown,
No.
right? And when you
Yes.
enter the space of
Yes.
the unknown, you're not in control.
That's right.
And
And
when
it's a
you're not
scary
in,
thing. And why
right? And it's when
you
you're
don't want
not
to
in
leave your
control.
comfort zone, you know,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
So when you're not in control, you cannot control the situation because you're in an unknown space and an unknown territory that you don't know where this is going to lead to. And people are so cautious. I mean, you're sitting on the other side of the world right now, and I'm speaking from South Africa, right? Let me tell you something. There is no difference between what you are saying and what's happening right here in this country as well. It's the same thing. We are no different right now. Absolutely, no different from that perspective. And people are not willing to take that step. They're not willing to take a road that's not leading them to a place that they can't control. Are you there, Deanna? Can you hear me?
In a way, I'm a little bit jealous of, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. In a way, I'm a little bit jealous of the people who grow up and stay all their lives in one place and have friends from grade school and all that. It's a wonderful, comfortable life to have, to be able to grow up with your friends, to have a network of support, to always be in the same place. It's very comforting for the soul. It's wonderful. And I'm envious of people who are able to live their lives like that. It just happened that for me, it was a little bit different. And I'm not afraid of spending time on my own. I'm not afraid of just having an adventure, and so I ended up here. I ended up having a life that's completely different from what I could have ever imagined, but I don't regret it. But I do envy people who stick to the routine and stay in one place. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's a good thing for them. It just wasn't what I needed. I needed to do something a little bit different. It's what worked for me. But I'm not saying that it's good for everybody. You need a certain character to be able to do that, a certain flexibility in your mind, an openness, a willingness to try new things, and to get a feeling of a reward for it.
Yeah.
Some people don't see the need for that. There's no need for newness, stability, repetitive, routine. Many people like that. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, listen, I can solely relate, right? And when you and I initially, spoke, I think when the mind is open, you are willing to experiment more, you're willing to take more risk, right? And for me, I can talk about myself, and I don't know for you,
Yes.
and I think you've traveled more extensively than I have. And I can also be alone, and I do a lot of solo traveling by myself, right? And for me, the reason why my mind is so open I can take the risk is because of all the traveling that I've done. And that's what's given me that
Yeah.
freedom and that openness of the mind. Now, I don't know if that is what has contributed to the way that you are feeling.
Well, it certainly helps when you have to deal with different situations every day, meeting people from different walks of life, from different backgrounds, social economic status, religion, all that. You have to think on your feet, and you have to, be kind and be open-minded and be flexible, and all of that helps you to become that type of a person. I mean, you can't be closed-minded and travel and enjoy it. You have
Yeah.
to be open-minded. You can't pretend the world is going to be the same as you. You have to, for example, China was an eye-opening experience for me. I went because my father had gone 50 years before, and so I wanted to go. And I even studied a bit of Chinese in school to prepare myself, for eventually one day going to China. And when I got there, it was such a culture shock because everything was different. What they eat, how they think, everything was totally different. And I stopped and I said to myself, if I'm going to enjoy this year in China, I have to stop wanting to understand exactly why people do the things they do and why they are the way they are, and just accept it.
Yep.
And after I did that, after I came to that conclusion that it was 1 billion people and me, I thought, let them do and live their life the way they want to. And let me just accept what I like and disregard what I don't like. And after I came to that realization, I had a blast. I loved it because I stopped asking why. Why do they do certain things that drive me nuts? I stopped and I said to myself, let's just enjoy it. Let's just take the best and enjoy it. And I did
Yeah.
that. I would spend weekends with my friends and we would play mahjong and drink tea, and they would smoke a lot because in China people smoke a lot. And it was wonderful, but you have to just accept that they're not going to change the way they do things. So you just have to take it all in as a new experience. And if you can do that, traveling, getting to meet new people can be the most rewarding experience. But you have to be willing to accept and not try to change everybody to fit the way you see the world. You have to just accept that people do things differently, and it's okay. It's great.
Don't you think it's so ironic, right? Don't you think that that is the one thing that stands between humans today? Is the acceptance of another being,
Yes, yes.
right? It doesn't
I always wondered.
go for it.
I always wondered. You could fix the world if you forced people to go and live someplace else for a year in their lives. Just force them to do it. Take everybody after they finish high school or whatever and put them on the other side of the world and put those people over here. Have like an exchange, a
Yeah.
world exchange. And
But
just
but that's
force them.
it. But that's it, right? That's it, right?
Yes.
When
And
yeah.
then most people, I mean, it wouldn't help everybody, but it would be beneficial for many people to be in a different environment, to eat different foods, to do different things, speak different language, meet different, this I think would maybe help even bring peace to the world. If you
Yeah.
can relate to the people over there, maybe you're not as willing to drop a bomb on them or something if you have lived over
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
this, I feel like I'm a citizen of the world. I mean, I'm British and I'm Mexican on paper. I have 2 passports. My kids have 3 passports because the Thai father, so they have 3 passports. But that doesn't really mean anything to me. I feel, because I grew up all over the place, that I just belong in this floating blue bubble. I don't really belong to any particular country. And so
Yeah.
for me, you can put me anywhere and I can survive anywhere. And I think if people traveled more and did more unexpected and different things, that life would be a bit more peaceful, and we'd have maybe fewer wars. I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
I mean, Christina, thank you so much. And some comments coming through, Deanna. Christina is from another country in Africa. She came on a couple of weeks ago and she shared her story as well. And she says, so amazing, Deanna, an inspiring story. Thank you so much, Christina, for joining us this morning. Guys, share some comments and some questions. And if you have any thoughts, I think Deanna will definitely be able to share more if there's anything coming our way. So please feel free. It is an interactive talk. So you are more than welcome to ask any questions or if there's any comments that we can definitely help. So it's interesting because, even in your own country, people do not travel, right? They don't like to, go out and do things and not even travel. We don't even have to do that much. Just do something different. That's not the same, right? just something that you would never expect yourself to do and
Yeah.
challenge yourself. And I just feel that we are so, I know, right? It's sometimes you think, and acceptance is quite a big thing, quite a big thing. And it's amazing that you touched on it, Diana, as well, right? Because if you cannot accept another human being for who they are and what they are, where they come from, no matter what color they are, no matter what they speak in terms of language, it is no different. We are no different from each other. You sitting on the other side of the world, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting on this side of the world. We are sharing the same thing, just in a different form.
Yes. It all it all sounds, you know, how can I put it? It sounds rational, but unless you experience it, you don't really believe it. Growing up, I had boyfriends from all religions, all nationalities, all beliefs, and in the end, they're all the same.
Yeah.
But you
Okay.
only learn
You
that
just
through experience. You only learn that,
you
having relationships with different people. You realize that everybody pretty much just wants the same thing.
Yeah. So you just took it to another level right now. You just took it to, okay, all men are the same. We know that. We women know that, right? Doesn't matter.
I mean, I
Sorry,
think
guys.
they're more or less the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
My my first boyfriend was an atheist violinist from Italy. After that, I had a boyfriend who was a Jewish boy, a swimmer in high school from Boston. Then I had a Catholic boyfriend from Mexico. And, the list goes on and on and on. And my husband, who's now outside feeding the chickens, he's a Muslim Thai boxer from Thailand. So, I
They're all
covered
the
the
same.
whole range. And
Yeah.
pretty much, they all just want to have a good life, maybe do something interesting, have children, and make sure their children have a better life than us. They all sort of strive for the same things. So, I mean, we all always emphasize our differences, and oh, they're black and they're white and they're yellow and they're red and whatever. And for me, that was never interesting. For me, I embrace, the commonalities, and I don't really care about everything else, and that's what's important for me, the character of a person. So for me, it never mattered that this person was atheist or this person was Catholic or this person was just, it didn't really matter to me. For me, what mattered was their personality, their values, what they believe, what how they treated me, and how they treated their friends and family. This was what was important, their character. Everything else for me just wasn't really interesting. And that's what made it possible to travel and meet people and not really be afraid of meeting different people, because in the end, I realized we're all just human beings, and
Oh
we
yeah.
all eat and we all shower. We all do the same things. So, what's the big deal? And that's what travel has taught me. Uh, it seems a silly thing to learn, but unless you experience it, you grow up fearing the other people. Oh my goodness, those people, what do they think? What do they eat? What are they doing? But in the end, we're all pretty much the same. And if we all really knew that, then I think the world would be a better place. It's just that we don't really know that, or we forget that. We forget that we're all just people.
Yeah. We forget it definitely, but I also think it's a choice as well, right? People don't realize, how we behave, and we tend not to accept people for who they are. And that is why there's so much of judgment in the world, right? We
Yes,
judge. There's a
yes, we
societal
judge.
judgment that is placed on us, doesn't matter where we're from, doesn't matter who we are, it doesn't matter about our characteristics or what we do or how we do it, and it doesn't matter about our values. It's more about, the judgment that society has placed on a particular human being. And that is what has been driving a
Yes,
lot of societal discussions today. And for me, it's that, I can share. the reason how the what happened with open mic when I actually created open mic, I was in Argentina. I was in South America, right? And I was in Argentina for 3 weeks. I spent 3 weeks in Argentina by myself, did not speak an ounce of Spanish, right? I had a phone. I had a phone that worked overtime. However, the culture was the most warming, most welcoming type of people that I so embraced. And the stories that I heard was absolutely remarkable. And when I got back from my trip, I was like, what do I do with all of these stories? And that's when I created the Open Mic Foundation. Because the stories that we have within ourselves and what we go through and what we've been through has so much of wisdom and experience in it alone, right? And we keep it to ourselves and not realizing there's more people out there that needs to hear what your journey has been through. They don't have to agree with it. It's just for you to hear what the story is all about, right? Because whatever we go through, other people have gone through it as well in some way or reaction. They have been through something. I can tell you now, some of the people that are listening at the moment, or some of the people that would listen to the replay of this, can relate to it. They will definitely be able to relate to this because there's so much of, if you look at the world today and what we are all, see, that's the thing, we are all going through the same emotions and feelings today. There is no difference between
Yeah.
any one of us because we are all feeling what the pandemic has done to us across this entire planet.
For us here, it's been really devastating for Thailand because Thailand is a country that really depends on tourism. And for me, for my husband, we opened this gym and mostly it's foreign tourists who come and train with us. And since Thailand closed down in March of 2020, for us anyways, we really haven't had guests for a year and a half, which means no income, which means all my staff had to go home, which means, it's devastating. And it gets you thinking.
Yeah.
What does it all mean? What is it all for?
When
At
are
the
you
beginning, I was very upset.
Carry on.
But now, after being upset for a few months, then you sort of accept and you move on, right? And so for me, the pandemic has been about trying to find things to do while waiting for the country to reopen. So I've been playing the piano and painting and making my quilts and just trying to stay active and trying to stay in touch with my friends and just trying to make the best of a terrible situation. At least we had some assets we could sell, so we have some cash. But I see a lot of people suffering in Thailand because, people who lived from day to day without any income for a year and a half is devastating. So,
Yeah.
I mean, at least I'm lucky we have some, some revenue, some savings that we can rely on.
Yeah. I mean, here in South Africa as well, I think we're also definitely feeling it. So much of businesses have gone under. The unemployment rate has increased as well. There's so much of sadness when it comes to how much we've lost, but I also believe we've gained. So as much as we've lost, we've gained. We've gained our sanity. We've gained humanity again. We gained what is important to us and what does life mean, to us. And people are starting to question versus starting to look at it and say, okay, and just going with it. So there's a lot of acceptance. A lot of people, had to have done over this year and a half. So is Thailand still closed, or are y'all getting your tourists back in?
They're trickling very slowly. But Thailand is still not completely open. No, just vaccinated tourists, and they have to stay in certain hotels. And it's just a sort of a pilot program that they're starting now. But the camp, we have like 50 rooms here and they're empty. So, I mean, it hasn't really made a difference for us yet. We're still waiting. Um,
Okay.
but what you said, really, I believe it, that it's brought back a bit of our humanity, because
Yeah.
before the pandemic, my husband and I were just thinking about, running the gym and making sure we, wake up in the morning and work, 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 work. And now that we have no work, um, and no income, we've tried to make the best of it. And actually, I mean, not that I'm saying the pandemic is a good thing, but in our relationship, we now spend more time together. Isn't that strange? We do more things together. We go fishing together. We have dinner together. I don't know. It's like we try to be happy with less. We try to make the best of it together. We're actually spending more time with our friends, just chit chatting, and because everybody feels like they're on the same boat. Everybody's pretty much screwed. And so it's brought this sort of camaraderie amongst all the people in society. I don't know, it sounds bad, but it, I find that my relationship with my friends, and especially with my husband, has actually improved since the pandemic, because we've become more more loving with each other, because it's a scary time, right? So you depend more on each other during moments of stress. It's a very highly stressful situation, but together we feel like we are trying to deal with it, and I feel like we've become closer. I
Yeah.
think it's weird, but we have.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one that has said that, right? So there's two coins to that. So from what I've heard is that in South Africa, there's been a lot of divorces that has happened, that has taken place. So the courts have been filled with a lot of divorces because there was an unraveling of marriages and it wasn't sitting too well. So there's a lot of people that have ended up in divorces. But on the flip side of that, to
Yes.
your point, there's a lot of people that have got to know their partner better, or their spouse
Yes.
better,
Yes.
and there was more kindness and there was more love and affection, right? Because you wouldn't have think about this. You wouldn't have been able to do what you are doing right now and be still if you would have the gym still running, right?
Yes. Yes. In fact, we had to sell our house so that we could have cash to live. But and I thought, gosh, we've been working all these years to try to have nice things, and now we have to let go of the
Yep.
car, let go of the house. Now we live in a tiny bungalow, and I thought, gosh, this is a scale down, a downgrading, and I thought, how embarrassing in a way. How am I supposed to tell my friends, that this is going on? But you know, I realized that I was a very materialistic person, and that's not necessarily a good way to be. You can live with less. It's not the end of the
Yep.
world, and we still have food, and we still have good times together. And I guess I have to learn. It's like an education, I have to learn, to let go. For me, the pandemic has been an exercise in letting go of things, and I'm still here, so I guess it's okay. I guess I'm lucky in a way, because there have been a lot of marriages and people we know who have been going through the same stress, and they haven't been able to deal with it well, and they've gotten divorced. There's been people who have committed suicide. I mean, it's terrible. I'm lucky in that, for me, we've just had to sell a few things, and that's that. It's not the end of the world. So I'm lucky. I'm very lucky.
Yeah. 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 Deanna, thank you so much. I mean, guys, is there any questions? Is there any thoughts for Deanna before we close off? It's been such a What an inspiring story, to be shared today. And it does make us reflect back on ourselves and what's important to us. They always say, this common thing that they say is less is more, right? And we take it for
Yes, it
granted
is.
what
Yes.
less is more meaning, right? And when you have to learn the lesson of letting it go, you realize how much you actually have.
Yes. We forget that our grandparents, great grandparents, they went through wars. They went
Yeah.
through pandemics, the Spanish flu, the World War One, World War Two, all these big events that exist only in books for us. But these people had to live through it.
Yep.
And they must have gone through worse than what we're going through right now. So that's what I mean. Like, it just puts everything in perspective. And I realized that, as long as we still have food on the table, it's okay. We're I'm not going to complain, but I do feel for my staff, my friends who are maybe, don't have savings or whatever. They are suffering a lot. So, I mean, we are hoping that things get back on track soon. But in the end, this will be one of those moments, in 10, 20 years from now, when they talk about times during the pandemic, people will will remember that, it's that life will go on. It's just maybe a little bit different, that
Yep.
this will be another learning curve.
Yeah, so true, so true. Deanna, any last final words for our viewers that you want to share with them before we close off?
Yeah, sure. For me, I guess this is what I tell my kids all the time. I say, when life shows you an opportunity, don't say no right away. Think about it. Maybe say yes more than say no. And try new things. And because in the end, all we take with us is our experiences, is our memories of things we do. And the more you say yes to, the more different things you'll be able to experience in life, and it'll make life more interesting. So, just try to be more open to different activities, and you never know, you might find somebody or something that you really love that you didn't expect. So just be more open and say yes more, and try to follow your own adventure and see what life brings you. For me, uh, I would have never in a million years guessed that I would have ended up in Thailand with a Thai boxer husband. Never in a million years I would have guessed that. And had I said no more than yes, I wouldn't have been able to be here. So just say yes more. Say yes to everything that happens in life, and you'll be surprised. Life is full of
Yeah.
surprises if you just let it. If you let it surprise you.
Yeah, so true. And what great advice. And I cannot agree with you 100% on that, right? And yeah, say yes more, and see where it takes you. Deanna, thank you so much for your time this morning, and in Thailand, obviously this afternoon. I so appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy. We will be in contact, so we know that we won't be in touch. We'll always be in touch. So thank you guys so much. For those that are listening and have joined us and will be doing the replay, hashtag the replay so that we could see. And if there's any comments, Diana is in on the group, so she will be able to respond to anybody that has any questions. Have a great Sunday afternoon, Deanna, and take care. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you,
You
everyone, for
too,
joining.
Shashni. Have a good time.
You too. Cheers.